Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, and today we're checking out what's new with Android O. So right now we don't have an official name for this. This is the second preview, which should be pretty close to what we see in the final release. There are some revisions from the first beta. So this is also the first public beta, and we're going to take a look at what's new with the phone as well as the tablet. And I do have an Android 7 device here so we can compare the differences. So starting with the lock screen, there are a few things to take a look at here. So the ambient display has been updated. So if we wake up the display here, you can see that it has been simplified. So you'll see those notification badges up top as opposed to this list of notifications on the right. Now you can also double tap here to wake up both devices and take you right to the notification shade and expand it out just like you could before. Let's go ahead and unlock both devices here and take a look at what's new on the home screen. So on the home screen here, the biggest visual change really comes down to these notification dots in the corner of each app that has notifications. So you can see that they're also color keyed to the specific app. So if I expand out this folder, you'll see that the apps have different colored dots indicating that there's notifications there for them. And if we expand out to the folder view, you can see that it reflects the color of the folder. Now what it doesn't do is tell me how many notifications there are, but if I long press on them, I can see how many notifications there are. There are 3 of them. So I can swipe to dismiss them or jump right to the notification by tapping on them. So just to give you a closer look at this, again, I can long press on Instagram to see I have 43 notifications, and again, I can swipe through them and pick the ones I want to open up. Now for apps that have widgets, if you long press on them, you actually get this little widget indicator. So if we tap on this, we can actually drag and drop widgets right from this interface without having to go directly to the widget screen. So you'll see this for several other apps here. So for example, the Maps app also has a widget, so it brings up a few widgets we can add. And then for apps that do not have widgets, you also get this option to see the info for the specific app. This allows us to force stop it, disable it, or adjust the permissions. So just to illustrate the difference here again, if I long press on Android 7 versus Android O, you'll see My Apps plus the widgets and info screen as opposed to just My Apps. And of course, this also works with the Maps app, so you see a very different design here. Another very minor visual change happens when you swipe up to the app drawer. So you can see with Android O, the navigation keys turn black instead of staying white with the gray background. So when it comes to our drop-down notification shade, once again, we can swipe down to invoke it using the fingerprint sensor along the back, and you can swipe down again to get to the quick settings. So the quick settings, obviously, in this case, are lighter than they were. So they've sort of flipped the colors. We have dark icons and a lighter backdrop, and we can swipe through our pages. The other difference comes down to the location of some of the features at the top of the screen. So, for example, our multi-user mode has been moved toward the bottom along with our date and time, in addition to our option to edit the icons and more. Now, in addition to a lighter backdrop with darker icons, they've made some slight tweaks to the names of some of these. So, for example, cellular data is now mobile data, and battery is now battery saver mode. But otherwise, most of these have the same functions. They've also made a really smart design improvement to the notification shape. So, if you look at the top, I have my 3 notification badges. Now, if I swipe down, you can see they expand out as I bring down the shade. And then they seamlessly build out as I scroll through my notifications. So I can see which apps have notifications without having to expand all of them out. I think that's a really smart design. It's definitely not as elegant on Android 7. So if I swipe down here, you can see they all have to expand out to see which apps have the notifications. Another new feature with Android O is Autocomplete. So this is the same info that it's taking from your Chrome account and applying it through the Android OS. So for example, if I go to the Twitter app, I can go ahead and log in, and it's giving me the option to use my Google account to fill this in. So if I tap on this, it just wants me to select which account I want to use to pull this information from. We're going to click continue here, and it should fill this out for me one at a time. Now, if you tap and hold to get to home screen settings, for the most part, this is the same, but if you activate developer mode, we have this option to change the icon shape. So I'm not sure if this is going to be deployed with the final release. So again, this allows us to change the icon shape. So we can leave the default view, or you can select square or others, and you can see as soon as you apply that, this will apply the change to some of the apps. Not all of the apps seem to work. So for example, the Maps app is now square, as well as the Chrome app. So again, if we go back to settings here and go back to change icon shape, we can choose other things like a squircle. So again, it changed a few of those apps, but not all of them. You can even go for a cylinder, so let's see what that's about. So that's a little weird. You can see that the top is rounded while the sides are squared. Now we're pretty familiar with side-by-side apps from Android 7, and for the most part it works the same here. So if I go to recent apps and drag and drop one of my recent apps toward the top of the screen like so, this will activate the side-by-side viewer, and then I can pick another app to open up side-by-side. Now, if I go to the home screen, you can see it tucks toward the top, but not all the way like it used to. So for example, if I go to Android 7 here, right now I'm in a split screen view. If I go to the home screen now, you can see it completely hides toward the top into the status bar. So it's not as visible. And then you can go ahead and open up another app side by side and it expands out. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, neither my Pixel C or this Pixel will support picture-in-picture mode, which is available with Android O. So in theory, if you're watching a video such as this YouTube video here, I should be able to just minimize by going to the home screen, and then it should pop up to give me this floating picture-in-picture view, which I can resize, reposition, and do whatever I want with, but unfortunately, that's not working yet. Picture-in-picture is something that's built into the OS, and if you want to modify the apps that have access to it, you just go to our settings panel, go to Apps and Notifications, go to Advanced, under Special App Access. We have a section just for picture-in-picture, so you can see the apps that support it. And then if you want to turn it off for certain apps, such as Chrome here, you can turn that off just by toggling it off. Now, another big change comes down to the Emoji Library. So if you remember, Google is pretty famous for these sort of blob or gumdrop emojis. They've been replaced by something much more conventional, but it's also quite a bit more colorful. I actually like these better, but I know a lot of people are going to miss those unique Google emojis. Now, you can see they spend a lot of time on coloring these, so they're quite a bit more vibrant, but otherwise pretty much fall into line with other emoji libraries. Once again, this release of Android significantly overhauls the settings panel. So gone is the support tab. Instead, that is found at the bottom of the screen here. So we have the same features, it's just sort of rearranged here. They also eliminated the slide over screen. So if you swiped along the left edge, you can get to an entire list of all the settings. That's gone with this release. They've also significantly condensed everything, so you can see there's far fewer categories here than we had before. So for example, Wi-Fi is now network and internet. Bluetooth is now connected devices. Apps and notifications has been combined. Location and security is now one screen here. So you can see there's two places here on Android 7 versus one location for Android O. Users and accounts has also been combined here. So if you go to users and accounts, you can see that info is in one screen. We also have our emergency information right here. So you can select your emergency contact info and some of your health conditions. Another new category here is System, which combines a lot of things that used to be separated with Android 7. So that includes language and input, date and time, as well as backup, system resets, and more. So this is also where you go to About This Phone. So this is where you find out which version of Android you're running, and if you want to run your system updates. Another category they eliminated from the settings screen is Moves, and they really buried it in Android O. So in order to get to it, you have to go to System. We're going to go to Language and Input. We're going to go to Advanced, and under Advanced, we have a category for Moves. So all of this is now simplified to this. Now, for the most part, I really like these changes because they make a lot of sense. So for example, wireless and networks used to be its own subcategory at the top, which was divided by this line. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. With the new release, it's all combined into one category. So instead of hitting more, you actually go right to this panel to see everything else, and they all get these little icons. So to me, this makes a lot more sense. So you can see VPN, a hotspot, and tethering, and more, all in one logical location. Now you can see network settings reset, which is relocated to the top of the phone right here and under those ellipses. Now they really have completely redesigned most areas of the settings panel, and just to give you a good example of it, we're going to go to Wi-Fi. So if we go to Wi-Fi settings here, you can see that this layout to me makes a lot more sense. So for example, we have Wi-Fi preferences down below. Now for all the options that are available with Android 7 under Wi-Fi, you had to go up to the gear icon, which brought us to a different screen, and then you had to go up to the ellipses to get to Advanced. So this never made a whole lot of sense. Now we have everything in one location in this list view. This extends to other areas such as battery. So if we dig into the battery settings, you can see all the settings are down below in addition to the app management. So you can see which apps are using it instead of having to dig through all these settings up top, such as usage alerts, battery optimization, and more. So you can see everything in one screen. Now you can see up top, you did get a preview of your usage estimate, but you can tap on this to get to the same screen. And you can see which apps are using all of those resources. Now when it comes to Android O on the Pixel C or the tablet interface, it doesn't look like it's picked up everything that the Pixel phone gets, and that could be because it's still coming but not yet implemented in this developer preview. So for example, the notification dots are not on the tablet yet, and if you do a long press of some of these apps here, you can see that we don't get some of the quick actions that are available with the new Pixel launcher. So for example, we can't launch any of the widgets from this interface, and we don't have the option to see some of our app settings from this interface either. Otherwise, the drop-down notification shade picks up the same design as well as our quick settings. The settings panel also picks up up the same interface here, so everything is broken down the exact same way. Of course, we also have our side-by-side windowing. So for example, I can drag and drop an app from the recent apps viewer to either the left or right-hand side and then open up something else on the right side, such as Gmail. And of course, just like the Pixel phone, we can minimize by hitting the home key and it slides over. Alrighty guys, hope you enjoyed this look at what's new with Android O. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in my next video.